Welcome to Dialing In Your Coffee Business, where we help cafe and roastery owners build a healthy coffee business that takes great care of people, including them. I'm Michael Ryan. I'm a certified business coach and consultant that helps cafe and roastery owners build a healthy coffee business that takes great care of people, including them. My guest today is Jamie Cunningham. Jamie is one of the owners and founders of Stay Golden Coffee in Nashville, Tennessee. He has over a decade of experience in the coffee industry, including owning cafes and roasteries. On today's episode, we cover Jamie's story, how he got into the coffee industry, and his journey through owning multiple businesses to where he is today. He also discusses his coffee subscription program at the actual cafe, where you can sign up to get unlimited drip coffee and cold brew, as well as an espresso drink program that Stay Golden is well known for in Nashville, Tennessee. And finally, he unveils his new barista training program that can be found at yourcoffeeshopsuccess.com, and you can follow along with his brand new Instagram profile at yourcoffeeshopsuccess. All of Jamie's websites and social media profiles are in the show note captions. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that this podcast is an extension of our coaching and consulting. It's a part of our effort to make all of the tools necessary to build a healthy coffee business zero cost to everyone. In keeping with that theme, I'd like to thank one of today's sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by our How to Grow a Roastery online course. The internet and social media are filled with people trying to help you roast your coffee better and better, but there is almost nothing available to help you run the business side of your roastery better and better. Whether you also own cafes or not, this online on-demand course will guide you through step-by-step everything you need to know to grow your roastery into a healthy coffee business that takes great care of people. You can access this course and all of our other on-demand courses at threadbarecoffeeconsulting.com/courses. And be sure to enter the code podcast100 at checkout to get $100 off any of our online on-demand courses. That's threadbarecoffeeconsulting.com/courses and enter the code podcast100, all caps, to get $100 off any of our online courses. And now my conversation with Jamie Cunningham. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm super excited for today's episode. Jamie, you are joining us from Nashville. Yeah, are you in that? I mean, I know you're based in Nashville, but is that where you're at right now?
That's right, yeah.
Word. I'm super excited to hear about your story. A couple of things that I'm really curious to explore, questions about like your drink subscription program, but also I've heard tell that there's some training stuff in the works, and I'm super excited to hear that. But I'd love for folks to feel like they know a little bit of your story, you as a person, you as a business owner, and then the story of Stay Golden, and give folks a sense of where you've come from, also so that they feel like they know who you are, and they feel like they understand why you know what they're going through. Like they can connect with you because you know what it's like to run a cafe and a roastery business, and go through the process of learning and growing and learning. What do we say? Learning that you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, take us back to the beginning if you don't mind, and just I'd love to hear your story.
Oh, for sure. Well, first, thank you so much for having me on and for thinking of me as someone who can add value to what you guys do. That really is humbling and honoring. I've always been the kind of guy who I'd never set out to be anything, and I don't mean that in like a oh, I'll never make something of myself. I just mean that I never intended to be known, I guess, or popular. I really loved coffee and I really loved business, and ultimately I really loved hospitality. And so my intent from the beginning has always just been to put my head down and work and serve people. And, so that's always been my heart. For some reason that has turned out well in many ways. And,
those are three really good guiding principles. Like love coffee, love business, love people.
Yeah.
That'll set you straight.
I feel really honored, is all I'm really trying to say, that you guys would consider me. So thank you. My stories. I moved to Nashville in 2009. Really just because I wanted to be part of a community that was here. At that point, I had been out of college for a couple years, and I was delivering tires in Kansas City,
Oh,
where I was born and raised.
Did you get tired of it?
Which
oh
nailed it.
no.
I would. So ironically, if I could do that job again, I would.
So you'd retire?
I would retire
Oh.
into tires.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Dialing in
pretty
your
great.
coffee business, aka the Dad Joke Podcast.
I'm so sorry. I can't turn it off. My deepest apologies.
No, I'll go in and I'll mute you.
A good idea.
So moved here to be part of a community. I needed a job, and one of the first people I met through that community worked for a coffee company in town and got me a job. And it was my first hospitality gig. It was my first restaurant / cafe opportunity. And I'll tell you, man, it did not take long for me to realize that I really love hospitality. I got this weird high from being in the weeds and getting through it and going, oh my gosh, look what I just did. That was a horrible 1.5 hours, and I'm so happy. So that was just kind of awakened in me, and I thought, oh man, there's something here. And so the company I worked for at the time, I don't know if I'm allowed to say names or anything. So
anything's fair game for us, and you just say whatever you feel comfortable saying. That's
fair. Well, I have a good relationship with that business. I love them. So I worked for a cafe called Fido, which was part of a larger community in Nashville called the Bongo World. So there were, at the time, Bongo Java Roasting Company had 5 different cafes. They went by different names, but so I was at Fido for a little while. It was by far their highest volume cafe. They were doing stupid money, like $18,000 a day was like a slow day.
Moly.
Oh my Lord.
Stupid money.
Stupid money. And so it was really high volume, and I just was like, came in at the right time and managed to like fall in love with this industry. And so I convinced the owner of this larger company to give me a job that did not exist in his organization. I was like, dude, if you will let me come on and do training and lead quality control and this stuff, I would love it. And I literally looked this guy in the face after being in the coffee world for like 6 months and said, I promise that I can change your business. And he was like, you know what? I'll give you 1 day a week. And I was like, I'll take 1 day a week.
Smart.
So I took my 1 day a week, and I created a 5-year plan that involved, I look back, it's so silly, that involved literally changing the structure of his entire coffee menu across 6 cafes, getting rid of a bunch of drinks, adding new drinks, getting rid of 20-ounce cups and only doing this size. And I presented it to him, and he was like, why would I do that? Why would I ever get rid of this one drink that you're saying that I should get rid of? And I was like, well, because it's not where coffee's going, and you need to get rid of it. And he pulled it. So he gets on his computer and he goes, man, at one store, I made $100,000 on that drink last year. Why should I get rid of that? And so I was just dumb enough to say, well, it's working right now, but in 5 years it won't. And so you need to let me do this now. And he was just dumb enough to go, I'll give you 1 month. so I was like, okay. So I went in and we gutted the menu and all this stuff. And honestly, I just got really lucky. It worked. It was a good decision. I didn't really know it was a good decision, but it was a good decision at the time where we were in the coffee industry. And it reduced his COGS, and he was able to charge the same amount of money. And so, we were able to look back and go, hey, this actually was a good thing. And so I said, hey, can I have 2 days a week now? And he was like, yeah, I'll give you 2 days a week. So
nice.
After about 6 months, I had worked myself into a full-time job that was overseeing quality and education for this kind of mid-tier roasting company with 5 cafes that grew to 7.
Hmm.
We saw really tremendous growth in about a 5-year period, and developed a training program for the wholesale accounts and cafes, like the whole deal. It was really fun, and that experience gave me enough confidence to think that I could do it for myself. If that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was armed with just enough information to
Yeah.
be foolish enough to go, I
To be
know how to do
dangerous.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so while I was there in the bongo world doing that, my future business partners were doing similar things for a really great coffee company called Crema here in town.
Mhm.
So one of them was pioneering their roasting program, and the other one was overseeing training and quality and product development for them. And so all the while we were growing those companies, we were working on our first cafe, pitching investors, trying to fund it, trying to find space, the whole deal. And it took us about 2 years, and we ended up opening Steadfast Coffee here in Nashville.
Mhm.
So,
What year was that,
and
Jamie?
that was in
16?
2015.
15.
Yeah, right in 2015. April of 2015 is when we opened.
Mhm.
So we had obviously started building that out and all of that in 2014. And so we got Steadfast open, and in some ways that was such a wonderful experience. It was the first time we kind of got to put some of our ideas to the test, right? Like, what have we learned? What could work? What doesn't work?
Mhm.
We took some risks. At the time, pour over was like a really big thing in the industry.
Mhm.
And we said, we're going to be this super specialized shop without pour over. And like, here's all the reasons why we think that's a good idea. And, so we were doing stuff like that. We had one of the first mod bars, and that was like cool to see, but not realizing that like new technology is
Has new
new.
problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
So we did some things that were smart. We did some things that weren't. But what was really interesting about that experience was that it was our first time actually being in business with partners,
Mhm.
and um, I there are actually some things that I can't say legally
Yeah.
because of how that went, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
But we got like a year in, and we realized, oh man, this partnership with our financial partner is
Mhm.
actually not going to work out,
Mhm.
and it
Yeah.
was a really bad deal. And so,
Yeah.
man, we did everything we could, all the while trying to run this business, keep this business going. We're the face of this business, and
Mhm.
on the back end, it's not just falling apart, right?
Mhm.
It's like going really badly,
Mhm.
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 and our partner was doing some really bad things that we couldn't control,
Mhm.
that was hurting the business, and
Mhm.
it was really challenging. So we got all the way up to the point of going like, our only option is to try to take legal action.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we attempted that, and um, our partner ignored it.
Wow.
And so our lawyers were like, you have one option here.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's either stay here or leave here.
Mhm.
And so we had to make a really hard decision to walk away from everything. We lost
Yep.
everything
Mhm.
in that deal.
Mhm.
And so 2 years later, April of 2017,
Mhm.
was my last day with Steadfast.
Mhm.
But here was the real kicker. We cared so much about our team and our business, and our faces were attached to that brand. It wasn't the
Yeah.
partners that we, even though everything in us wanted to just like destroy it.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, if we can't have it,
Mhm.
you can't
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
We realized like the only way to really handle this well is to set it up for success and walk and quietly disappear.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so that's what we did. We hired our replacements for the roasting company and the cafe. We trained them. We basically said, if you do these things, this
Mhm.
place will keep running. And that's what we did. And so it's still around. As far as I know, it's still successful. I don't know. I've kind of
Yeah. Right.
separated from it.
Right.
But it was really hard to kind of go, man, everything I've worked for, put my heart and soul into this place, and it's not mine anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I can't really like let people know that it's not
Mm-hmm.
mine anymore,
Yeah.
right? Because I mean, I can privately, but like
Yeah.
publicly, we just
Not
Yeah.
just like quietly disappear, you know?
Yeah.
So that was really tough. Between Steadfast and Stay Golden, we had a non-compete that was extremely strict that
Mm-hmm.
we had to abide to. So it took us 8 months to kind of negotiate ourselves out of that deal. And then once we were out, we were able to partner with a new guy on Stay Golden. A trustworthy, honest, amazing partner.
Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
so we started working on Stay Golden in January of 2018, and we had it open by August of 2018. And man, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's been like so much better than Steadfast, right? Like we didn't have kind of the really bad partnership stuff to work through. We got to take ideas and things that we learned from Steadfast and like, hey, to ask the question of like, what's the next iteration of this? Like, where do we really feel like coffee's going, or how do we really feel like you can make money in this business while honoring the things that we really care about, hospitality, coffee quality, what do we think um, culture should be like after, what did we learn about creating a culture the first time that we want to change this time? So we got to ask all those questions in like a new environment, which was really fun. But at the same time, we were open for a year and 3 months before COVID hit. And so, it's been a sort of terrifying, sort of fun, and then some days like really fun adventure.
Some days really tiring.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, everyone has their COVID story, right?
Yeah.
And I've certainly got mine. But yeah, it's been crazy, and um, I feel like I've learned a ton in the last 5 years, and I've also learned enough to know that I don't know. I don't know anything. It's kind of what I feel like. It's really broke me. I'll just be honest and say, I walked into the Steadfast era thinking like, I can do this. I know. And to a degree, I did the same thing. I made the same mistake walking into Stay Golden, right? Thinking, well, like now I've learned some stuff, even more, and like I can do this. And now, man, I just feel in the best way possible, just completely broken and completely humbled by the industry, by what it means to serve not just guests but my team, and what it really means to build a business. Because you know this as well as I do. People look in on restaurateurs or cafe owners and they think it is so glamorous and so cool, and it is everything but that. Most days. Spreadsheets are not glamorous, and dealing with staffing issues or really getting in on a team member's life and helping them out, like it is far from that. And business is ridiculously hard, and it has just humbled me, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. I like really like the place I'm in. I like being able to say, yeah, hey, other cafe owner, like I think I'm maybe a few steps ahead of you. I think that I have some information that can help you. But at the same time, I feel really good about going, I don't know everything. I don't know how to solve the next problem. And that's half the fun.
Yeah. Totally.
So I don't know if that's the answer to your question, but that's my story to a degree,
I
right?
love it. Yeah. I'd like to take a brief moment and thank another one of today's sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by our How to Grow a Roastery group coaching cohort. This 12-week cohort is led by me, and it follows the 12 modules in our How to Grow a Roastery online course. But it is so much more than that. When you join our cohort, you get access to our owners-only Slack community, access to recorded group calls, and access to book a one-on-one call with me to talk about growing your roastery. In addition to that, I will personally review your website and your social media accounts. I will also personally review any materials you send me during the cohort, such as wholesale pricing sheets and marketing collateral. I always order coffee from our group coaching cohort members, so of course I'll be giving you feedback on product quality, fulfillment, and follow-up as well. You can watch the trailer for this group cohort and all of our cohorts at threadbarecoffeeconsulting.com/group-coaching. Be sure to enter the discount code podcast500 to get $500 off your group coaching cohort. That's threadbarecoffeeconsulting.com/group-coaching and enter the discount code podcast500, all caps, to get $500 off your group coaching cohort.
Man, your story is really incredible, and just like hearing all that. I knew a little bit from the outside. You know, I brought in Steadfast for a couple of seasons in our kind of offerings at Narrative. Mm-hmm. And I remember when Lee said, like, hey, I'm, moving over here with Good Citizen and stuff. So I remember, that and hearing that there were some things that weren't ideal, but I didn't have any, I'm privy to absolutely zero details and that sort of thing. I think there's probably a nearly endless mine to dig in to all of the things that you just shared. And I would love to do that at an exhaustive level. Maybe we'd have you back on another time. I don't want to derail too much, but I would love to hear if you have maybe like one piece of advice or a couple of pieces of advice on like how to select a partnership that is really helpful and healthy, or if there's like a big set of red flags that you're legally allowed to talk about. Of course, if you can, that's totally fine. But if there's a couple of things that you would like encourage people to look out for, I'm sure that would be really helpful to people.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I've thought about this a lot over the years. I'm in a healthy partnership, so I think I've seen how good it can be, and I've seen how bad it can be. And I'll tell you that if I had to do it over again, even though I have an amazing partner, I would try to not have a partner. Just to be honest, right? I think that I think the big problem with people are opening coffee shops is that overwhelmingly, and this isn't everyone's story, but I could even say it was my story looking back, even though I didn't think it was, right? Overwhelmingly, people who are opening coffee businesses don't know about business and don't know about coffee business in particular. So when they're looking to fund something, they're going, well, I found a location and I really have this idea for community, and I think a coffee shop is the great way to go, and so I need money. And so they do what the most obvious thing, which is, well, who do I know that wants to partner with me, or who could I find that has money that wants the same thing I do? And again, I've done that 2 times now, and I think that is a viable way to go. Yet, now that I'm down the road a little bit, I think that the better way is to say, well, it's a lot harder, but it's better to actually have a really good, solid, informed business plan with actual honest, and this is the hard part, like honest, data-driven pro formas, right? Through which you then go to a bank and say, this is a really viable idea. Because a bank will partner with you for 2 or 3%, right? Maybe 8% on a loan that after 5 years you're out of. And then you're the owner. As opposed to a partner who's going to say, well, you're coming with little or no capital. And so in order for me to make this a good deal, I'm fronting everything. So I'm going to take 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%, 90%. It just depends on the deal. And that's the deal forever. You
Mm-hmm.
know, even if you could negotiate, well, after 10 years, I invest 10 or 15 more percent or whatever, like that would be super generous. They don't have to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
in the end, it's still going to take you what, you know, with whatever percentage you end with, 5, 10, 20
Mm-hmm.
locations before it becomes like life changing the way you
Yeah.
wanted it to be life changing,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
And so the challenge then is for someone who's looking at that is they're going, well, I don't know how to build. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have that financial model. I don't know
Yeah.
what an average ticket price is or how many people I should expect or what to look in for a location or how important parking is or traffic or like
Yeah.
even if I knew some of that, I still wouldn't know how to build that model,
Yeah.
right? And so in a bank, if your model's not accurate, they're going to go, yeah, I don't know. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
we're going to partner with you. So
Yeah.
like the more data driven, the more confident you can be in your model, the more you can back up. Well, where did
Yeah.
that number come from? Well, it came from A, B, and C, right?
Yep.
Um, and so I think that's the challenge is that going to the bank feels much harder because it is,
Yeah.
and you have to be armed with information that you don't have,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's the better way,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, or the even better way is to have the capital yourself or to find a way to
Yeah.
earn the capital yourself without going into debt, obviously.
Yeah.
But I just think that that's a challenge. So to answer your question fully, for those people who are want to go that way, um, you need to hire a consultant, which
My
right,
guy. Yeah, absolutely. My man.
right.
Yes,
I mean, look,
especially one for a course that's called How to Start a Cafe, where we walk through every single detail that you need to know
I think there's
to
a
be
module on
answer
funding.
ready on
Yeah.
how to tell the bank how you came up with those numbers based in a data-driven way where you have
yes.
analyzed and collected data. But anyway, that's beside the point. Thanks for the shout out, though. I appreciate the tee up.
You're welcome. It's true, right?
Yeah.
And look, you guys offer something pretty amazing because you offer that information, you know, either in a personal or group setting for a really affordable price. There are
Mm-hmm.
other people in the business who offer it for a much higher price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Individual, one-on-one, custom.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what price you pay. Even if you paid, I'm going to throw out a stupid number. Even if you paid somebody $100,000 to produce
Mm-hmm.
that model for you, if
Yeah.
it's accurate and you're going to be able to go to the
Still
bank
cheaper.
and confidently, right, and confidently get
Yeah.
$500,000, 750,000, $1 million to build out your business, a good consultant is going to build that fee into your model
Yeah.
so that the bank sees that not only is the loan in there, but the consulting fee is in there and it still works out in the positive, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's still, to your point, Maxwell, still cheaper
Yeah.
and still very much cheaper than giving someone 70% of your business.
Yeah.
That's good.
Totally. Yeah, not to derail too much, but I do have a client that just was able to get 10 grand from a landlord. It's like more than covered our consulting fees for almost a year. In one little clip
One little
because
win,
of
yeah.
being able to do that. So that's definitely
Yeah.
a thing. But this is in no way supposed to be like, oh, come work for us with us or whatever. But I was just curious about your thoughts for the folks who might feel like they don't have another option but a partnership. Is there any like helpful little like things to keep an eye out for that they should be prepared for if that's the route they choose to go to?
Yeah, man. I think that's a great question because, sometimes it is the way to go or the way people choose to go. Again, I've done that 2 times,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yep.
yeah. I would say this. You should treat it like a marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't get married to someone who you didn't know super well. I'm talking
Yeah.
about every intimate detail. You need to be able to sit in front of your business partner and you need to know way more about them than they are probably comfortable knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're uncomfortable sharing the stuff that you need to know, then they are not a good partner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you need to know also, like, I'll tell you that I found out after the fact with my first partner that his wife did not want the deal to happen.
Oh.
And if I would have known that in the beginning, I would have been like, this is not going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
but I didn't. He just wasn't the kind of guy who was going to, we didn't have that kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, the flip side to that is then you go, well, the only people I really know that well are like my friends. Do I really want to
Mm-hmm.
partner with my friend or a family member?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say probably the answer to that is absolutely not. It should be
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to
Yeah.
stay a family member or you want to stay friends,
Yeah.
don't do it.
If you want to stay
You
golden.
know, so you got to find those
Sorry.
partners that are willing to be vulnerable and honest and, you know, are
Yeah.
going to view it like a marriage, but they should probably not be people that you want to continue loving for a long, 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 long time.
That's
Because
great
business is
advice.
business.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have thought of that takeaway, that line of reasoning that you just walked us through, but I'm fascinated because I'm reading some diaries of people who went west back in like 1800s, and that's actually exactly what they say also. Go by yourself.
Interesting.
Go by yourself, because if all the awareness is your responsibility, you'll actually be safer. As soon as there's another person there, you assume like, I'm sure they've got that on lock, but they're assuming you've got it on lock and you're more vulnerable. I was like, never thought of it that way, but it reminds me of what you're saying about,
Yeah.
you know, thoughts for finding a partner and just being like, don't figure out how to do it
Yeah.
yourself.
Honestly, I'll take that even a step further and say, I've made money decisions that that I would not have made if it were my money.
Yeah.
Right. And I look
Word.
back on that and I regret it.
Yeah. I think that's probably most people. I think that was one of the biggest mistakes I made when I was an employee, was spending not my money. And looking back, I'm like, I never would have booked those trips to Colombia and Kenya if it was my money.
Yeah.
Just super
Yeah.
simple, not super simple stuff, but like silly stuff. Like I wouldn't have done that if it was my money. And that's a tough lesson to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's easy to think that especially when you're getting started and everything's just moving fast and, you know, you end up doing some things that you definitely wouldn't do if it were yours. But the problem with that is if you're a good person, you have to realize that you have a moral obligation to this partnership.
Yeah.
Right. And especially if the other partner isn't an operator and they're not active, you're literally saying, you're making a promise, whether it's spoken or not, that like I'm here to make this a good investment for you.
Yeah.
And if you start blowing money or making decisions that you wouldn't do if it were your money, you're already going down the track of making it a bad investment for them, and you're breaking your promise. And I've been in that position, and carrying that weight is really hard. And I've made some decisions that even now I super regret, you know, and I wish I could go back and do it different, but I can't.
Well, thanks for sharing, Jamie. That's a lot of wisdom and experience that you're offering to our guests and listeners. I really appreciate it. So thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
We get that question a fair amount as far as partnerships.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. And so your wisdom and insight on that, I know, is going to be deeply appreciated, and your honesty and your candor. I know it's going to mean a lot to the folks who, you know, are a part of our small group coaching or just reaching out to us randomly to ask these kinds of questions. I know they'll appreciate your insight. I'd like to take a brief moment and thank another one of today's sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by our one-on-one coaching program. Whether you're in the startup process or you've already opened up your cafe and roastery, our one-on-one coaching program is for people who are ready for a personalized touch and a proven process to follow. This 12-month program takes you through 3 major phases where we make sure you as the owner are flourishing. We make sure the business is flourishing. And finally, we make sure the staff is flourishing. Not because staff is least important, but because this is the only process that actually works. When you join one-on-one coaching, you get access to all of our group coaching materials, including recordings and the private Slack community. In addition to that, you get a standing one-on-one meeting with us where we walk you through how to ensure that you are flourishing as the owner, how to ensure your business is flourishing, and of course, how to ensure your staff is flourishing. For one-on-one coaching, we prioritize people who have taken our courses and or joined our group coaching, but you can always reach out to us and schedule a strategy call so that we can be helpful and see if one-on-one coaching is a good fit for you. Just go to our website, threadbarecoffeeconsulting.com, and click the link to book a strategy call. Like Maxwell said, there's like this exhaustive list of questions that I'd love to ask you, but I want to transition a little bit because one of the other main things that I kind of know about you guys, having been to Nashville a couple of times, is something that you're currently doing. So I know we've kind of gone history up to today, but your day in and day out today includes something that's pretty unique, and that's a drink subscription program. And this is another thing I get a ton of questions about, and I'm always like, I only know one person who knows the answers. Mm-hmm. As much as you're willing and comfortable to share, how did you guys come up with that program? How did you launch it? As many details as you feel comfortable sharing, our listeners will love. And I have one specific question that I just need to know the answer to, even if I edit it out later.
Yeah, totally.
And it's how many people take advantage of it. That's what I'm going to ask you.
Yeah. I will do my best to answer all those questions. I'm a pretty open book. There's very little that I won't share. So, I've had my mind on a subscription plan, like a lot of people, I think, for a long, long time. I mean, back in the Steadfast days, we explored it. Around that time, there was an app that was kind of moving through the coffee industry called 12 Ounce. And they were working really hard to kind of grow and kind of be a subscription app, a middleman, if you will, between subscribers and coffee shops. And they actually had a pretty cool idea and model, but they struggled to get coffee shops onboarded. I mean, as you can imagine, the coffee shop is doing the math and going, I just don't see how this is going to work for me, And so during that time, that's when I kind of started thinking about what it might look like to do our own subscription. And then the math just didn't seem to work out. So I threw the idea away and said, I'll let someone else figure that out, Fast forward to COVID. And so during COVID, I found myself in the shop a lot alone. So, like a lot of people, my business was turned upside down overnight. We went from 25 employees to 5 in a matter of 24 hours. And ironically, in that time, we also expanded our hours and expanded our offerings, because that's what our neighborhood and our community needed from us. They needed us to keep doing what we were doing, but they also needed us to start making affordable dinner options and things like that. So I found myself at the shop a lot, working on the floor, because one person could manage the volume the way it was coming in, and just thinking a lot. And so subscriptions came back to mind. I'm in this mode going like, what does our community need from us? How can we serve them better? Right. And so I start thinking about a subscription again, and do nothing really about it until we come out of COVID, until we were able to reopen and bring people back into our dining room and things like that. And I thought, you know what? I'm never going to get the answers to my questions, because the only way to answer the questions are to actually do it. Yes. And so, because when you're working with the subscription model, if you try to depend on math to answer your initial questions, the math will never work out.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, well, how often will people use it? And, how quickly will I lose my shirt on this deal? You just don't know. And so,
especially when no one's done it before.
So I just thought, you know what? I'm going to launch this thing as a test. I'm going to let everyone who signs up for it know that this is a 3-month trial. And I basically said, I can't lose too much money in 3 months. So I'm just going to try it. And volume was low at the time anyway. So I just thought, let's give it a shot. So I launched it. We have 2 subscriptions at the moment, and I'll get to that. But at the time we had 1 subscription. I forget what we called it, but it was essentially a filter coffee subscription, right? It was for $15 a month, and you could get unlimited hot or iced coffee. So you couldn't walk in and say, "Can I have 5 of those?" You could walk in and get one, and then if you finished one and you wanted one on your way out, or you wanted to sit for a while more, you could just ask for as many as you wanted. But coffee is a self-limiting beverage to a degree, right? So
totally.
So we offered it and basically just kept really close eyes on the numbers. And to this day, we do. We track. I go in and pull data every month, every 2 months at most, and I put it in. We make sure that we're not losing money and stuff like that. So, what we ran it. 3 months turned into 6, 6 months turned into a year turned into 2 years, and now we're 3 years or so down the line, and we've added a second subscription, which is an espresso. Kind of basically, it's any coffee, it's any drink really. If someone orders tea, we're going to give it to them, right? So it's just espresso-based beverages. Yeah, exactly.
Please order the tea. Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted water, actually. Is that okay?
Yeah,
for sure.
And not chai. Please don't order chai.
Don't chai. Any other tea per cup, please. Yeah.
Yeah, your oat milk chai is really hurting me here. Please just get.
Those are brutal.
So we did it, and we've kept track. And so here's essentially what we found. And also, we did raise all of our subscription prices last year, not by much, but so right now the filter coffee subscription is $19 a month. It's still a spectacular deal.
Yeah.
And so we've found over the years with all of the data that our filter coffee subscription on average is redeemed 9 times a month.
Per person?
So on average.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Per subscriber. So right, we have some subscribers that are in here 5 times a day. They work down the street. They come every couple hours and get another coffee. We're mathematically, we are very clearly losing money on that customer.
Yeah.
Right. But there are so many other people who are redeeming less that the average is 9 times. That's been our experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
The espresso subscription we assumed would be redeemed more often, and that's been true. So it is generally redeemed around 13 to 15 times a month.
Okay.
Now we charge $60 a month for that plan. So here's the cool thing is that once, on a retail, with retail numbers, we're losing money. But when you go down to the COG level, on average, we're not. We've actually never lost $1 on this deal. So it's been really cool. But the extra super cool thing, and the thing that I didn't really think about when I launched it, was the psychological impact of having a subscription with a company. Right? Because for our subscribers, they're going, why would I have a meeting anywhere else?
Totally.
I already paid for my coffee. Right? Why would I go this is my place. This is
my brand. Yeah.
It's a commitment to walking into our physical space.
Yeah.
And what we saw people who were, they were 2 or 3 day a week people that became 5 to 6 day a week people. We saw a huge increase in the number of times they were coming because they were going to work that deal.
Yeah.
And what we didn't expect was all of the new traffic that those people were going to bring. So they started having meetings here, business meetings, friend meetings, and then people are going, what just happened? Like, why did you not pay for your drink? And they're like, oh, it's super cool. I have this subscription. I save so much money. And they're like, how do I sign up? Scan the QR code, so it's been really cool to kind of track the numbers, to run the tests, and to see that even if I don't make money on the subscription itself, I am certainly making money on it's so easy to acquire new customers when other people are introducing them to you, right? And then of course It's really hard to track. We don't have a solid number on it, but just by talking with the people working cash register and things like that, we're noticing that a lot of those people are now they're more willing to add on a muffin or an entree
Yeah.
than they were before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because their coffee is free.
Free. Yeah.
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 Beautiful.
Yeah. So
And then like you said,
really
it's a
cool.
self-limiting beverage where, you come in and you crush 2 cups of coffee and all of a sudden you got a little bit of shaky and you're like, you know what I really need? I need some food right now. And this place
Right.
is slamming sandwiches or your food in general.
Yeah,
You
your
guys do a
food in
lot
general.
of food, which slaps. So, it's
Big
like,
Thank you.
yeah, you're set,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I have exactly what you need. I didn't
love
create
it.
this
Exactly.
problem at all. I'm not going to solve it for you either, So yeah, I think that's really, really awesome.
Yeah,
That's really
it's
cool.
been a good deal. And we definitely plan on opening it up to, as we open new locations and things like that, we will continue with the subscription for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love what you said. There's a couple moments in your story leading up to this point, and then a couple moments you shared with this drink subscription program where you made, I don't know if you did it intentionally, but you decided to frame things in an incredibly helpful way. And with this drink subscription program, what you said about like, I'm never going to have the numbers unless I just do it. The math is not going to work out beforehand. It's going to work out after the fact once it's actually live. That decision to frame it up that way is so helpful. And going back to when you shared your story, you talked about you've learned so much to know that you don't know, and that's half the fun. Just deciding to frame it that way, even if you didn't do it intentionally, is so powerful. To say like, I don't have all the answers, that's what keeps it fun. Whereas a lot of people totally naturally understandably would be like, I don't have all the answers, oh no, and treat it and frame it up as a negative thing. I love that you have done that, are doing that, deciding to maybe even subconsciously frame things up in a super helpful way when you could just as easily be like, well, I don't have the numbers, so we're not doing this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not super helpful. So that's a cool recurring theme in this conversation that I just want to highlight and call out, but also thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful to hear kind of the way you're connecting the dots in these various scenarios.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. And I do think that there are times to make sure the math works. Obviously, before you open, when you're funding, the math needs to work.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
But cash flow and revenue solves a lot of problems and opens up a lot of opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So, right, I was open for a couple of years, and even though COVID destroyed my cash flow, right, I knew that it was going to come back, and so at that point, I leaned on the other principle of business, right? There's only 2 reasons why a business exists ever.
Yep.
Any business, but especially small business. You exist to serve people and to make profit, hopefully, so you can make profit to serve more people. That's it. Right? And so we were making, we weren't making enough money for sure during COVID, but we knew that was going to come back. So then we had, you had to lean on, okay, well, how do we grow? How can we serve people better? And so a subscription was an idea that we needed to explore to see if we could serve people better. And for us, that idea of serving people, that for us starts with our team. So yes, a small business exists to serve their clients, but the only way in hospitality to properly serve clients is to be working with people who are happy, healthy, and taken care of. And so as a business owner, you start by serving your team, making sure that your environment is good, that your people are good. That will intrinsically flow down to the guests, to where the guest ends up thinking that they're the number one priority when actually, in all honesty, they are last on the list.
I love it.
Right?
But
it works, and everyone stays happy that way. And then if you can make some profit, should you use that money for yourself to enrich your life and leave a legacy? 100%, there's no doubt. But part of that money should be taken and use to improve systems, improve the lives of your team, like all of that, right? So that's the only reason you exist. So for me, it's like, yeah, I've got to figure out how to solve my guests' problems.
Filling a need. That's it.
That's it. And it's hard. I think it's really hard when you open a business because you have this idea of what you want to be. So I'll give you an example with Steadfast or with Stay Golden. We opened and our entire intent was to be a modern diner. That was like, that's the idea that we were using, right? We want to be that a diner, right? It's kind of, we're not going to be open 24 hours, but it's the idea that like you can come all day and you can be at this place and they have breakfast and lunch and their coffee is in a mug and not all diner coffee is good, right? But
there is a lot of coffee available.
There's a lot of coffee flowing and you could get pie and whatever. So that was the whole idea. And so the whole idea was to do these like modern takes on diner food and whatever. And so that was our menu. We had really fun, exciting. We had kind of like, all of my favorite dishes we've ever made are no longer on our menu. And it's because that's not what guests wanted.
People didn't want it.
They didn't want it, right? Like I wanted all this adventurous food. It was stuff that I would want to eat. And we had an amazing chef. We had all of it, and we get open, and you start looking at sales reports and realizing like, oh man, no one wants that really exciting, amazing dish.
People don't want my quail egg coquette. Dang it.
Like we have a smoked trout tartine that would blow your mind away. We had we did short rib hash where we corned the brisket in like it was unbelievable. And you know what? People just didn't want it. What they were buying was they were buying biscuits, man. We sold more biscuits and our number one selling dish far and away is our American breakfast. It's a build your own breakfast.
Literally, when you said diner, I was like, I want to come there for that.
For the Grand Slam, dude.
I just immediately was like, I want to go back next time I'm in Nashville. That's what I want to get.
So,
that's so
it's tough because I had to let my dream die. This like idea of being a modern diner and doing all this stuff. Like at the end of the day, that's not why I exist. I exist to make people happy, to serve people. And so all of those fun, exciting dishes are gone. Now, am I ridiculously proud of our biscuits and our soft scrambled eggs and our crispy potatoes? Yeah, undeniably so. But you have to look at your market and go, why are you actually here? You're putting your money on what you actually want. And so I'm going to take that data and I'm going to go, okay, great. These 5 dishes are gone. You like these 5 dishes, and I'm going to replace these 5 dishes with new versions of these 5 dishes so that you'll buy all of them, right? And that's it. And so we do that every year, and our menu gets more refined, and our product mix, our sales mix gets better. And, heck, we've seen profits go up and COGS go down and all of it. So
that's a awesome. Huge, man. That's a huge lesson. One of the things I find myself saying and almost repeating a lot is if the singular goal of the business is to fill your needs, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And that's fine.
That's right.
If it's a hobby, but if it's going to be a business, it has to meet the customer's needs, has to solve their needs in a genuine, real way and take care of them in a genuine and real way. If it's just what I 100%. Want to be doing, then that's great. That's called a hobby. And that's going over the numbers and reiterating or iterating, on the offerings. So, because people, what do they want? They want a better, faster, cheaper version of what you already have. Always. Buying this thing, give me that thing in a different version today.
Right
I
now.
Love that. Now.
Yeah. For a little less money, please.
Slightly faster or cheaper or just better, but an iteration on the same thing. Versus, the thing that you want to sell them or something brand new that they don't even want in the first place. That's really cool.
Yeah, and finding the intersection of this is what you want and this is what I want.
Of course.
Exactly.
Yeah, both
Now-
and. Yeah.
now-
That's sustainability. Yep.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you don't want to hate
Now
what you
you
do.
know,
Yeah.
You know,
You'll end
it's
up
like
reverse
you
engineering.
need to love what you do,
Yeah.
but you can
That's right.
find common ground. You know, and common ground is where you thrive. You know.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Don't hate what you do. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But it's not either or.
Exactly.
And same with like the staff. It's not either the owner or the staff.
Yeah.
It has to be all three.
Yeah.
Oh,
But it's helpful to
yeah,
know
I
like
agree with that.
which one is your guiding principle or your guiding light in each context. Menu offerings, for example, like who's the top priority in that conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Not that they're the only consideration, because it's possible to launch something your customers love and your staff hate and you hate.
Mm-hmm.
Totally possible.
Yes.
So
Yes.
breaking out of the either or paradigm and exploring and trying to find those both ands, like the customers love this and the staff loves making it, and it's enriching my life in a direct or indirect way by increasing profits, or I just love that we serve this thing, or I love that we offer this thing, or like the psychological benefits of the subscription. Those are all real valid things to take into consideration.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think that I'll go ahead and admit that for a long, long time, even up until recently, I really felt I was so staff centric, right? Of wanting them to feel like they work in a healthy place and they're happy here. That I was really afraid to be honest about the fact that the business needs to be profitable.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because especially with all this stuff that's going through the industry with, employees unionizing and things like that, I think that owners are really afraid to talk about the fact that, well, the business needs to profit. And so for me, I had a real shift in the last 18 months where I realized that if my team is under the belief that profits are bad or are bad for them, and that's just something where a business owner tries to profit to line their pockets, then we've really done a bad job of communicating why we exist and what profits do for them. And so I've completely shifted, and I actually apologized to my team, and I said, you know what, I've been thinking about this all wrong, and I've been afraid to talk to you about this, and that's 100% wrong, and I'm sorry. And so we're going to start over right now, and I'm going to tell you right now that this business exists for two reasons, and I explain the reasons, and one of them is profit. And before you get mad at me about that, I want you to know that my intent is to take that profit and make your life better, to compensate you better, to fix systems in the shop, to grow so that you have opportunities to move up within the company. And is it also for the benefit of me and my partners? Yes.
Yeah.
It's for all of our benefits.
It's for both.
Yeah.
It's for both, right? And so that
done.
has shifted the conversation, because now I can go to my team and go, hey, look, like, you might feel, we might have to, it's a slow season. We might have to cut you a little more than you want to know. But I need you to know that by cutting you, we're keeping our business out of the red so that we can profit, so that we can benefit you, right? So you're now part of this thing, getting this thing to work for everyone's benefit.
Man. That's beautiful and super courageous. Golly, that takes guts to do it. But I think it's beautiful. One of the things we say a ton is that a healthy coffee business takes care of all of the people. And so, like, why profit? To take care of all of the people. As soon as we drop into, it can benefit the staff, but it can't benefit the owner, or vice versa, both are unacceptable. Neither one is what we're talking about. So to frame it up, because generally speaking, you said this earlier, coffee business owners are not coming into this with a ton of business knowledge, and neither are their staff. So they're coming in with these mental models that may or may not match reality. I don't know. The last time I heard of a barista who went to business school was I've never heard of a barista like going to business school and then getting hired. I know it happens. I'm being a little bit tongue in cheek, but what I'm saying is, like, they don't know. And maybe we as owners, we also don't know, but that's not helping anybody. As we learn and grow, inviting our staff into that, kind of assuming that they probably also don't know a ton, and being willing,
Right.
being courageous, like you were just describing, to say like, here's the deal though, we do need to turn a profit, and what we're going to do with
Yeah.
that is enrich lives, but enrich everybody's lives. When you grow or implement better systems, that's good for you, for the staff, for the customers. When you give them raises,
Right.
that's good for you, the staff. When you give yourself, a raise in whatever form, that's good for you and the staff and the
Right.
customers. To wade into those waters, I think, has always been hard and is only getting harder for owners, especially. At least my read of
Oh,
the
totally.
situation.
I think I would agree with that completely. I mean, in a culture where, one tweet to the right account could cancel you and
Yeah.
ruin your business.
Yeah.
I have a sad example of that in our own business. We when we first opened Stay Golden, we opened two locations within a 3-month period, and the second one was on the east side of Nashville. Based on all of our research, it looked like it was just going to be a prime location, that we were going to get a lot more traffic and all of that, and we did. We did get a lot more traffic. But what we were surprised about was that the people coming into that location were spending 40% less than
Oh, wow.
the ones at our other location. And so it was completely unsustainable. I mean, we were
Oh
having
my
to
gosh.
staff more to handle the volume,
Right.
right? But the revenue wasn't there. And
Right.
so we were bleeding. We were bleeding bad. And so we managed to keep it open for about 11 months before we were like, what is happening? Like, why? None of this makes sense, right? So we sent out a survey, which I will just say out of the gate that if any of your listeners are not doing surveys with their market, immediately start. If you want
Yes.
to know how to grow, just ask the
Yes.
people who love
People.
you what they want
Yes.
and
So
deliver on
good.
it, right? So we did a survey, and it was basically like, and we were honest. We were like, look, this isn't working out for us, and we can't figure out why. So we just need you to tell us. So we asked, like, it was like a 5-question survey. And in the end, it was super clear. The people on that side of town wanted us to continue doing what we were doing. However, they they said explicitly, we save all of our money to go out at night and drink. And so we also want you to stay open so we can do that with you. And we were like, nope.
Yeah.
Right. So we had to close. We closed the
Yeah.
shop, and it was hard, and we lost a lot of money. So in that time, right, we were making that decision. We had to move quickly. And so our team was important to us. We had, 23 people working at that location.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, what do we do here? We
Yeah.
can't possibly take all of these people into our other location. We're fully staffed. We're taking a big hit here. So, there's no chance of us opening an additional location anytime soon.
Yeah.
So how can we take care of them? So we made the decision to pay them for all the time that they were already scheduled, plus 1 week of their like normal schedule. So they ended up getting 3 weeks of pay. And of course, we also have a pretty robust benefits package. So a number of those people had already accrued 2 weeks of PTO, things like that. So they also got all of their PTO.
Okay.
So, paid them severance, we paid them out their PTO, and we literally offered, we hired an HR company to help each of them with their
Get
resume.
jobs.
We helped them. I reached out to every contact I had in the industry. I helped a lot of them get placed in other coffee companies and things like that. We bent over backwards. But what happened is we had to have, we called a meeting, and it was after service on like a Tuesday, and we called a meeting, and we basically said, like, here's the deal. We're sorry we couldn't let you guys know that this has been happening, but it's been moving really quick. And so like today was actually your last service. And we're here. This is what your severance looks like. We have checks in hand. Like we're doing everything we can to take care of you. And I think that it was as well received as it could be. It's obviously shocking for people. Some of them had up to 5 weeks of pay, which was going to help them have times to find a job.
Yeah.
And no more than 24 hours later, there was some information given to the People's Barista. I don't know if you're familiar with the People's Barista. And all of a sudden there's like tons of negative stuff coming out about how we mistreat people and all this stuff. And so, we had to handle that. It's hard because it's like, oh, you actually didn't even get that information from one of our employees. You got it from one of their friends who just interpreted this information, And so this is a long example just to say, like, I think it's really hard because, again, one tweet, could cancel you or whatever. And so I think it's harder and harder than ever to make sure people are taken care of. And at the end of the day, all you can do is what you think is right. And it still might end up bad. But if you can be honest with yourself and sleep at night and go, I know that I did the best thing, then eventually it's going to pan out in your favor.
Yeah. Maxwell, you said something to me recently, and I'm going to paraphrase because I'm just going to say it the way that I remembered it. But it was kind of related to this. If you know who you are and what you're about, if you know like what your identity is, like they're saying this about me, but I know that's not true. I know who I am. I know what I did, or at least I know what I was trying to do. And maybe I didn't do it perfectly, but that core sense of like, no, I know I'm not that person is so powerful and comes up in so many weird conversations. I just had a conversation with a roaster about their new bags, and they're wrestling and hemming and hawing and compostable this and recyclable that. And I was just like, but who are you? Who are you? And it was a much more helpful like springboard for the conversation. But in those times, and I haven't personally been through that type of experience, but in those hard times, that deep knowing, like, but this is who I actually am. And I know that is incredibly powerful. I know what I did, or what I was at least trying to do.
Right.
And then hopefully, Jamie, you have a few people around you who know that as well and can remind you. I hope you have people in your life.
I know I do. I hope you do too. I mean,
100%.
That's it, right? I mean, that's at the end of the day in business, that's all you have is who you are, your intent. Because, even with your best intentions, someone's going to misinterpret it. I worked with a guy for 10 years, off and on, and recently, in the last 12 months, he worked at Stay Golden, and in many ways still have much respect for this person. He's a coffee professional to the max, and I promoted him in our business 3 times in a 6-month period because he was just that kind of guy, and looked to him for feedback on the business and systems a lot. Just trusted him. And one day he walked off the bar into the dining room and started screaming and going on and on to all of our guests and our team about how our business just makes huge profit margins and to line the owner's pockets and how evil we were and all this stuff. And he threw his stuff down and walked out. And I was totally shocked, that this person thought that about me when how I had become such like a villain in his story when in mine he was a friend. And so that's something, I mean, I think about him and this experience often still,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because it doesn't make any sense to me. But at the end of the day, it comes back to what you were saying, Michael,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
well, I know who I am, and I
Yeah.
know what I did, and I
Yeah.
know how I treated him,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I know that I did everything I could to make him feel valued and
Yeah.
invite him into the business and to be part
Mhm.
of something that I thought we were
Mhm.
both proud of.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I can't control how he interpreted that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know for a fact that he has, or maybe is still out there saying all kinds of evils about me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
And I can't do anything about it,
Yeah.
nor
Yeah.
can I let it affect who I continue to be, how I
Yeah.
continue
Yep.
to act.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't let his thoughts about me drive me to make any decision, positive or negative,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Because that's all going to end up bad. I just got to stay
Yeah.
Yep.
true to what is right and good, and
Yep. Keep a steady
that's
hand on the
it.
wheel.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
That's right.
Word.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are real things. You know, that stuff's really difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of similar experiences. You know, of a cancellation attempt and
Mhm.
some stuff like that. And I think
Hmm.
there are some real challenges that are oftentimes people connect dots, right? And if they don't have the full picture, they sometimes can connect dots in ways that weren't intended to be connected, and it doesn't
Mhm.
come up with the picture that they, sort of expect. And it can be very
Yeah.
distorted,
Mhm.
and I think that our culturally, just what's been happening in the culture at large has been like quick to speak and slow to listen, and slow to like
Hmm.
ask questions and try to
Mhm.
understand before forming a map of the world.
Mhm.
um, and there are people who offer maps as like opportunities for them to be like, hey, try this map and see, does this fit for what's going on.
Mhm.
And it's really easy for folks to overlay a map that actually doesn't quite fit.
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
and that kind of perspective on the world, that like owners are taking advantage of people
Mhm.
and lining their pockets and those sorts of things. That's a very attractive map for folks, that
Yeah.
especially looks more attractive when there's a lack of intimate knowledge,
Mm.
um, behind the scenes. And it's really easy to think like I see lots of revenue coming in, and so
Yeah.
that must mean that there's lots of money, and
Right.
so when you don't actually know the whole, and when you don't like add things up, really, you don't actually do it. It's really tough it's really easy to see that kind of thing happen, but you
Yeah.
don't see all the expenses, you don't see all the other things. It's
Mhm.
like, I
Right.
can't tell you how many times I've talked with new business owners who are like, wait, I have to pay who's ASCAP and BMI? Like, why are they asking me for money? Like, where's this
Right.
coming from? Like, what's this tax? Like, it's, and people just don't see that. And,
Yeah.
and that's okay. But, it's like a lot of times it's not quite the picture that you think that it is.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
takes trust and humility to say like, maybe I'm not seeing everything, and so all that to say is I'm really sorry that happened to you, man.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I know what it's like. I see lots of P&Ls all the
Yeah.
time, and I know what it's like. I've been in the trenches myself, and I know
Yeah.
how freaking hard I worked, and how it still wasn't doing what I would love for it to have done financially.
Yeah.
And I
yeah.
had it better than
Yeah.
most, and it still wasn't enough to like be able to buy a damn
Right.
house in the Seattle area. It's like,
Right.
I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Uh,
all that to say is I'm sorry that happened to you. Also,
Yeah.
I think that is a story that will really resonate with people who are in the trenches too,
Yeah.
because that's the real life
yeah.
stuff of just like, man, it's so easy for people to
Yeah.
assume things about us
Mhm.
that are just not true. But
Mhm.
like, I could understand how they'd get there in a moment of ignorance or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But we still have to just know who we are, because
Yeah.
if you live for praises, you'll die by people's criticisms. And
Yeah.
you have to be resilient as a
Yeah.
leader,
Yeah.
and you have to be able to keep a steady hand on the wheel, even if you're freaking looking at the storm through cloudy eyes because you're just bawling your eyes out. It's like, it's a real thing.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
hard.
Oh, it
So
really is. And
yeah.
how true is that as well, Maxwell, of um, not just from an employee to an owner, but maybe you guys aren't like me. Maybe you're better men than me. But how often I look at other businesses and go,
I was
oh
just gonna
man,
say
they've
that.
got to be
Yeah.
drowning in money. Like
Yep.
I can't
Mm-hmm.
believe how much.
Yep.
Right. I was talking to a business owner who, um, and I won't mention names, but has a extremely successful roasting company and
Yeah.
multiple cafes.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I happened to be in your shop the other day and I could not believe how many people were there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
congratulations, first of all, I'm really proud of you.
Yeah.
And that's really all I was saying, right? It was just
Mm-hmm.
like, I think you guys did a great job. And
Mm-hmm.
they were, I don't know if it was a moment of vulnerability or what, but they were just like, yes, we're super proud of that. And it's bleeding our company dry,
Yeah.
Yep.
and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, and I
Mm-hmm.
actually just turned around and said, one, I'm really sorry about that. And two, like,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for sharing
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because I really needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because,
Yeah.
like, I don't want that to happen to anyone, but it's so easy just to look
Mm-hmm.
in and go, man, they have a line out the door all the time. They
Mm-hmm.
must be making so much money. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
to your point, no,
Yeah.
you don't know. Maybe
Yep.
they are,
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and maybe they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe their rent is
so
insane, and
Yeah.
yeah,
like all that
absolutely,
stuff. It's hard. Yeah.
yeah,
So.
yeah,
Yeah. I think I was gonna toss in the like owners doing this to other owners dimension of it, Jamie, that you shared, because I think Daniel Kahneman wrote a book called Thinking Fast and Slow, and he talks about a phenomenon called YCIT. What I see is all there is. Okay, I see this much money coming in, so there must be that much money. No, that's
Mm-hmm.
what you see, but that's not all there is. But the human brain does this naturally. We do it to other owners as owners. The staff's doing it to us. We're probably doing it to the
yeah,
staff. We're taking a little slice, the 1% of the pie, and then we're saying that's the 100% version, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never is that the case, but it's
Yeah.
very normal, very natural, and unchecked. It has huge consequences if we're not aware that we're doing
yeah,
that to
yeah,
our staff or staff to us. And it's one of those things where that framework, that foundational framework has been really helpful for me anytime I see myself kind of extrapolating a picture or a story, thinking I've got the whole story when really I've just got like this one little data point, and then I constructed the whole narrative arc around that one data point. But it's like
yes,
99% false. Uh,
yes,
so
yeah. That's
that
so
happens a
accurate.
lot.
I do it all the time,
I
and
think we
have to
all
stop
do.
myself and go,
Yeah.
Yeah.
this can't be right, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's more of a like we all do it, and then there's folks who catch themselves and the folks who don't catch themselves. Maybe because they don't
Mm-hmm.
realize they're doing it. But
Yeah.
I think it's a default of the way the
Yeah,
human brain works, from what I can
yeah.
tell.
I wish I caught myself more.
Yeah.
You
Same.
know,
Word.
Yeah.
I could go
Yeah.
months with like what do all these people know that I don't know? Like, how
Yeah.
have they figured out this?
Yeah.
They have this
Yeah.
like magic thing. Like, how could I figure this out? And spend
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
hours and
Yeah.
like, I could be at the dinner table with my kids, but I'm
Yeah.
not present because I'm trying to figure out
Yeah.
why so and so has figured out business and I haven't. And
100%.
then
Yeah.
you find out later so and so isn't the same.
Yeah.
They're thinking the same thing about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I have a one-on-one client, and their reality check was um exploring like a buyout. So they got access to the other company's like everything. And then they were like, "Oh,
Wow.
nothing I thought about this company or any other company was accurate."
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
like that peek into the back end of that other business allowed them to take a step back and go, "Oh, they don't have
Mm-hmm.
it figured out either."
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
I need to make these changes because they were doing some things right. So they learned some things from it, but they also had that reality check of like, so one of my favorite like curveball pieces of advice is like, explore a buyout. Start
That's
going
good.
down the
Yeah.
steps. They'll make you sign a bunch of
Yes.
paperwork so you can't share specifics, but you'll know in your head
Yeah.
because you'll get access to the
Well,
back end
how,
like you never would otherwise.
yeah, how how important and helpful it could be if there
Yeah.
was just a group of coffee shop owners who were willing to just get down and dirty and be honest,
Mhm.
right? So that you didn't have to explore a buyout
Yeah.
to know
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
actually, like, we're all in this together and we all have
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
to figure out. And
Totally.
Mhm.
hey, I'll raise my hand. I'll be the first person in the group. I'll be as transparent as I can. I'll share the down and dirty, but because we
I
need
love it.
each other.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
it's not only helpful to know that someone else is in a similar position,
Mm-hmm.
but the flip side to that is, like, you might have a piece of advice that could help them get out of that position, and vice versa. Maybe
Mhm.
maybe your idea didn't work for you, but in their specific circumstance, it could work, right?
Yeah.
So I think we got to get out of each other's way a little bit and stop thinking that so and so is my competition, and realize that
Mm.
actually a rising tide floats all boats, even in the
Yep.
same city,
Yep.
right? And if we can work together, if I can, you know, if I can give coffee shop down the street an idea that helps them grow, and they convert 7 people from whatever Keurig drinkers to specialty coffee drinkers, then when
Yep.
those people are in my neighborhood, they're going to come look for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Mm.
if I'm out there just going, well,
good.
so and so has it figured out, I don't have anything to offer,
Yeah.
they don't want to talk to me, then we're all just missing out on
Yeah. That's
the
beautiful.
gold. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I want to honor your time, but I was curious to talk about the training modules. Maxwell said you
Mhm.
Yeah,
guys are working on something. If you've got the time, I'd love to hear a little bit about it. I also know we've already
absolutely.
gone longer than I promised, so you
You know
guide
what?
me on how much time.
I'll tell you that I've just carved out the whole afternoon. I'll sit on the line with you guys forever. This
I
is
love
really
it.
fun. I think it's really good
Thanks,
getting to
man.
know you guys, and I feel like I'm doing all the talking, which I apologize for. But
No, that's
you're a
the
guest.
that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
fair enough. Well, yeah, I appreciate you asking about the training. So, I'm like everyone else, in this business. I've got a team
Yep.
that is, even though we have really low turnover exists,
Yeah.
and it's not a surprise to anyone in the industry that turnover in the hospitality industry is often very high.
Mhm.
And so the need for barista training is ever present. It's good training is really expensive. Heck, let's be honest, not good training is really expensive. And
Mhm.
it's expensive in a way that
Yes.
may be incalculable to you, right? You might not
Yes.
feel it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you have insufficiently trained baristas, it might seem like your numbers are fine, but what you don't
Mm.
realize is that uh, the vacation you really want with your family is going down the
Mhm.
drain every day because your
Yep.
barista's using too much milk, or
Yeah.
they're it takes them 5 additional shots to dial in throughout the day, and that
Yeah.
adds up to the
Yeah.
average coffee shop owner is losing $30,000 a year in profit, and they don't
Wow.
even know it because it's
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
milk and coffee going down the drain, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And so they're going, well, I don't feel that cost, and you're going, well, when was the last time you took a day off?
Yeah.
Uh, did you get to go to Disney this year, or like whatever?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mhm.
I didn't expect that. Well, you're never going
Could
to,
have had
right?
it.
Because
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you could have had it. And so training is there, it's ever present, it's ridiculously
Mm-hmm.
time consuming and expensive. And so for me, I was faced with that problem. And so I set out to fix it for myself. And when I did, I realized, oh man, this could help other people,
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, the short version of a long story is that I've taken a training system that I've been developing and evolving over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've digitized it. So it's online, it's on demand. It is built in a way where you can take someone from zero coffee knowledge to extremely proficient on your bar
Yeah.
in 24 training hours or less.
Mm-hmm.
It's 24 max, so
Mm-hmm.
you'll know exactly how much it costs to train someone. You'll know exactly when they're going to be verified and certified to work your bar. It's all there, and it's really easy to use. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been really cool. We use it in our shops.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I just made that I think someone else should buy. um,
Mhm.
we have been using it, and then once it was digitized, we
Mhm.
started using the video versions. And what's been
Mhm.
really cool about that is, now we didn't let anybody go, but we no longer are required to have a really high dollar trainer on staff,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
We have an administrator now who oversees the bar and who
Yep.
oversees training, but they don't have to have the knowledge that I
Yep.
have
Yep.
because the training is in the system, right?
Mhm.
Beauty.
And so it's been really cool to see how quickly we can get people through the system, how proficiently they're trained,
Mhm.
how we don't have to worry about carving out a bunch of time after hours, and I
Mhm.
don't have to worry about my trainer getting derailed, right, by some question and going on a 2 hour deep dive into the molecular structure of water, which isn't going to help them be a good barista, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so it is just like fast tracked and almost put on
Mm.
autopilot our training,
Mm.
and it's been really, really cool.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
so it's out in the world now
Yeah.
as of a few months ago.
Okay.
Got a number of shops
Congratulations.
using it, and yeah, thank you so much. Yeah,
Where can folks go to find it? I'm gonna go check it out too.
absolutely. So you can go to yourcoffeeshopsuccess.com, and right there on the front page, there's a button that says barista training, which will take you to a page that's kind of dedicated to that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
it's really cool. It comes with some things that I wanted to make sure were there. Again, I'm trying to solve coffee shop owners' problems, right? It's not
Yeah.
just a barista training.
Yep.
When you first open it up, there's recommended training instructions, right? So like this is how we suggest that you format this training
Yeah.
in 6 sessions. Um, it comes with a schedule. So right when someone's hired, if you know they're going to be barista trained, you can go, great, we're going to create your training blocks right now. You're going to know exactly when to show up, exactly when you're done. We're
Mhm.
all going to be on the same page. I can
Mhm.
hand that to the person who's making the schedule, and they can know
Mhm.
exactly right where to put you. And then there's a progress tracker. So as the person moves through the video training, as they take the quizzes, they can write down, hey, I did that quiz. This was my score, right?
Yeah.
And they can move through it. The really cool thing about this training is that as we've trained thousands of baristas, we've realized that like training is one thing, but there's a way that adults learn. And
Yeah.
if you move outside of the system in which adults learn, they actually
Mhm.
will disengage and stop learning.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so we've used the science of adult learning and we've applied it to this training. So the training progresses in time through adult learning styles and techniques. So it
Yeah.
starts very much with like um, UC, you do kind of like a mechanics, right?
Yep.
So there's a little bit of information, but it's
Mhm.
mostly like, let's get you actively
Yeah.
working,
Yeah.
actively pulling this shot. This is what it
Yeah.
feels like to
Mm.
tamp an espresso, right? That kind of thing.
Hmm.
And then as it progresses, it moves into we make sure there are exercises. So hey,
Mhm.
we just talked about what ratio is and how
Mhm.
it could affect flavor, but now we're going to lead you through a video where you're going to actually pull a shot that
Mhm.
has too much coffee or not enough water,
Mhm.
and you're going I'm going to taste it on the video, and you're going to taste it, and because it's
Cool.
science, right? We both know, like, I know that this is going to, even though you're using a different coffee, different shop, different grinder, I know
Right.
that this is going
Yep.
to taste under extracted, right?
Right.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about what it under
Yeah.
extraction tastes like. And
Yeah.
so we move them through not just information, which isn't always helpful, but we
Mm.
move
Mhm.
them through um, practical
Mhm.
exercises.
Mhm.
We teach them how to taste. We teach them how to dial in. And then
Mm.
as it progresses, it moves deeper into the science and into the why of why
Mhm.
those mechanics work, right?
Dude.
And then we go as far as saying, like, look, you're approaching a new coffee in a grinder. That can be really intimidating. Like, let's talk
Mhm.
about how you can get that coffee from zero to perfect
Mhm.
with a
Mhm.
system that your whole shop can be on.
Mhm.
Everyone speaks the same language. We can
Mhm.
get this dialed in quickly.
Mhm.
Same thing with milk, right? Look, we can all agree there's 50 great ways to steam milk. But if everyone in your shop is using a different way, then when something goes wrong, how can you try to fix that problem and troubleshoot it?
Yeah.
So learning the system and getting everyone steaming milk the exact same way. Now, when something goes wrong, someone in your shop who's gone through the training can go, well, hey, did you do this? And they're like, oh, no, I missed that. Okay, great. We all speak the same language. We know how to fix this problem, right? And so it's just been really cool. I've got a guy on my team right now who's super experienced. He's come from specialty coffee, been in the business a long time, and we were like, got to take the training.
Yep.
You know, like you got to be on the same page. You got to speak our language. And he flew through the training. It didn't take him 24 hours. It took him like 4.
Yeah.
Right? Because he knew a lot of it. But at the end, he goes, I'll tell you, man, I learned some stuff that I didn't know. You know,
that's awesome.
And also now he's on the same page as the rest of the team. And so at the end of the training, after all the videos and the quizzes are done, there's a practical exam and a written exam. And the written exam is obviously not video led, but there's a document that they can fill out. It's actually all of the questions from throughout the course, randomized and put into a separate document. So it's just we're reinforcing that information as they go. And then they have a chance to say, hey, I learned this and I can prove it, right? And then with the certification exam, it's loosely based on the way that the BGA used to do their verification exams. So everyone takes the same test. It's super systematized, but it's a really practical way of saying, hey, this is your next step. You have 5 minutes to do this thing. And the administrator is going to be on site and they're going to be ticking boxes and just verifying that, yes, you do know how to dial in. Yes, you do know how to adjust your grind, you know, that kind of thing. And so once someone passes the verification exams, the written and practical, then they get they're certified. They're certifiably, verifiably ready to work on your bar and to make you profit, right? And they're going to make better drinks. They're going to make them faster. They're going to create higher customer loyalty. And so I think that's the thing that a lot of folks are afraid to do. Look, I own not just a cafe, but I own a roasting company. We have hundreds of wholesale accounts and we train them all, right? And I can tell you beyond doubt that overwhelmingly people are looking to their roasting company to provide them with free training. And a lot of roasting companies are providing it. But do you know what the problem is? It's the most underutilized offer on the table. Overwhelmingly, cafes are like, thank you for that free training. I don't want to pay my person to go through it. Right? 100%. That still feels like too much for me. All the while, they're wondering where their profits are going. And they're going down the drain. Right? Or they're looking to the roasting company and they're saying, hey, I don't really want to pay this person, 2 hours to go on site at your lab. So can you come and train them while they're working their shift? It's like the wild west of training, right? And what's the roasting company going to say? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. No, of course they're going to come do it because it's their best shot at training somebody to represent their product well and to help their clients. So they're going and they're spending 2 or 3 hours trying to train this person while that person is trying to take care of guests. And what you end up with is an insufficiently trained barista. It's no fault of the trainer who's probably amazing. Right? An amazing trainer. But shops are just losing out on so much profit, so much loyalty, so much efficiency because they're afraid that the cost of training is going to hurt their business. And I'm here to say, your free coffee training from your roasting company is not free if you don't utilize it. And it's not free if you don't give them an opportunity to train you properly. And I'm also here to say, let's be honest with yourself. You're likely not doing that. Right? And so then the hard thing comes is that if you go, yeah, I see that and I do want to utilize it. And then everybody starts trying to utilize it. Well, now you're on the trainer's schedule and it takes 3 or 4 weeks or 6 weeks to get them in to train your new hire. All the while that new hire is not making you profit. And so having a backup system at the very least, right? A system that you can plug and play, like this one, online, on demand, you're in control. You know exactly how much it costs. Like, it's just the way to go.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying ditch your roaster. Absolutely not. Don't do that. There's having them come and train you is perfect.
Totally.
And also having a system that you can rely on when they're not there.
Yeah.
Right? That's the way to go. And so
I love that.
that's the gist of the training. I don't know if that sparks any questions, but I'd love to answer.
I love it. A video-based training program that carries the majority of the weight has been my recommendation for years, because I've been the trainer, I've been the director of education, I've done the training during a bar shift where it's like, oh, you were mid-sentence and you got distracted by a customer, and then we all forgot what we were talking about, and then you forgot to train me how to dial in espresso at all because we just got distracted. So video-based training has been my recommendation for years, ever since I worked at Wendy's, and they made me put the DVD in the DVD player and watch. And obviously there was more than that, but 80 to 90% of the training was that way. It allowed, there's lots and lots of benefits to doing it that way. Not viewing it as necessarily the 100% version, but this will get them to 90, 95%. And then if they got questions, sure. But to your point, man, I've been hired by roasting companies to go train their wholesale accounts because they don't want to do it. Okay, totally fine. Then those wholesale accounts call me at 6:30 because their grinder's down. And I'm like, I am not your guy, number one. Also, number two, you should know that. I only had 2 hours with you, and you said you wanted to learn latte art. Right. Okay. So I didn't get around to what do you do when your grinder seizes? I didn't get around to that. But I don't love getting calls at 6:30 in the morning because their grinder is seized and the roaster won't answer. So it's just there's so many benefits to this kind of format. And the fact that you've created it for folks, going back to filling a genuine need and serving people, man, what a need and what a beautiful service that you've created. So I just think it's so cool.
Thank you.
Now we've got coffee business owners who are the customers that you're serving, which is dope. I think that's really, really cool. It's such a cool, I bet it was labor intensive to make it, to set it up. The website's gorgeous.
It was. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it took me,
well done, man.
I actually was talking to Rachel from Crema, the owner of Crema, recently this week.
Yeah.
Showing her the training, and she said, how long did that take you? And I said, it took me at least 2,000 hours.
Yeah. I don't doubt it.
To get right. Yeah. It's been a long journey, but I wanted to make sure that it worked.
Yeah.
I'm not the kind of guy who wants to sell something to someone and then go, why didn't this work for me? I wanted to make sure that I was adding tons of value, that it was working, and that it was competitive, right? Look, let's be honest. I'm never going to have the name that Matt Perger has.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No one's gonna. But, so I wanted to look at his course and say, hey, look, Matt Perger is a brilliant coffee mind. He's got courses on here for stuff that I never imagined could even exist, right? But I wanted to be able to look at someone in the face and be able to honestly say, hey, look, if you want to learn about A, B, and C, Matt Perger is your guy. But if you want to take a barista, if you want to be a coffee shop owner and have a system that could take a barista from 0 to 60 really quick, dependably, and that has quizzes and verification exams and practical exercises. I want to be able to confidently say, I think this is at least as good, if not better, than what you could get on Barista Hustle.
Yep.
Right. I super admire that guy's coffee brain. It's amazing. Yeah. But for me, it didn't work. To get and this is, you can edit this out. I'm not trying to talk bad about anyone because I think that he's amazing.
Yeah.
But I've seen shop owner after shop owner go, I use it. It's helpful, but it
Yeah.
wasn't getting my team where they needed to go. So then
Yeah.
I was supplementing with YouTube videos, and I was writing my own thing to add
Yeah.
to it.
Word.
And it's
Mhm.
like, okay, so then what happens? You sit someone down and you tell them to read through this course because there's no practical work in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you tell them to like then read through your supplemental stuff and do these exercises. And then you say, okay, this should take around 3 hours. And then you come back in 3 hours and find that they're playing Candy Crush or like they read it all in an hour and it didn't make total sense or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
I just wanted to do something that I knew would
Yeah.
work and that was I could look at the owner and go, we can verify
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
this knowledge has been earned and
Yeah.
that it is
Yep.
working.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that was my goal. Yeah.
I love that. No,
Yeah.
I super
So,
appreciate that. I often will look at things through different lenses, and it's one thing to say a bunch of things that are technically true about coffee, and it's
Mhm.
something totally different to come up with something that's incredibly useful to a
Mhm.
coffee business owner. I can say
Mhm.
true things about coffee
yeah.
all day. The question is, looking at it through the business owner lens, is it useful to you or
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
useful to onboarding your staff? What's the minimum viable level of expertise your baristas need to have? Do they need to know that water chemistry to get on bar in the first place?
Yeah.
Obviously, that stuff's
Right.
fantastic. We all love that stuff, but how often are they using
Yeah.
that to dial in their
Mhm.
espresso?
Yeah.
So I think it's really,
Does
really
that make
cool.
you money?
Yeah.
Is the
Yeah.
question.
And
Does
Right.
it move the needle forward?
does it
Yeah.
move the needle? I
Yeah.
love and being okay asking that question.
Mhm.
For a lot of folks still have a lot of owners I talk to still have a really hard time even just asking that question. And probably the number one
Right.
thing people say to me on discovery calls is like, "Don't get me wrong, I didn't start this for the money." And I'm like, I know, I know you didn't start it for the money. My concern is you're not making any, and so you can't pay yourself a paycheck. You can't take a day off. There's no profit, which means you can't reinvest in anybody. It's like, I'm not worried about you
Right.
being in it for the money. I'm worried about you crashing this whole thing because
Yep.
you're almost like running
Right.
away from the money. So being okay asking like, hey, does this training program make me more money or does this training program make me more money?
Mhm.
And I'm excited
Yeah.
to do a deep dive in your program just so I understand the ins and outs better. But I can already tell
Yeah.
it's going to be a better investment because I know how much I charge for a 2-hour training,
Yeah.
and your thing's better than that. I already
I know
know.
how much I charge for a 2 hour training.
Word, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
100%. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, this is, to get expert one-on-one training is expensive, whether
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
with a consultant, whether
Yeah.
that's through an SEA course,
Mm-hmm.
right? No matter what it
Yeah.
is, it's extremely expensive. And so
Yeah.
that was part of the problem, right? I was
Mm-hmm.
fortunate enough to be
Mm-hmm.
part of a company that was willing to send me to BGA camps back when they were a thing, right? Or
Yeah.
to take SCA
I
courses.
remember those. Yep.
That was super fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. It was a good time,
Mm-hmm.
and it cost $10,000 a pop because,
Easy. Yeah.
right? It's after room, board, the courses. It's $5,000 per person, and guess what? One weekend wasn't enough. That only got you
Totally.
through
Yeah.
level one.
Yep.
So then you have
Mhm.
to go back for level
Level
two, right? And
2.
then
Yeah.
that's just one person. And then can that person translate that information to the rest of your team, right?
Mhm.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe then they leave and go somewhere else, and
Yeah.
then your
Yeah.
Yeah.
investment's gone, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that's the problem. And to your point, like we do need to be asking, does this make me money? Because
Mm-hmm.
there are two
Yep.
kinds of training, and what I find is that overwhelmingly, barista training
Mm-hmm.
is career oriented. It
Hmm.
is for the barista,
Yes.
Mhm.
right? It is,
Yes.
hey, you want to be a great barista? Let's come do this. We'll start with the
Yeah.
basics, yeah, but then we're going to talk about water chemistry, and then we're going to
Mm-hmm.
talk about the cellular wall structure of espresso, and then we're going to do all this. And that stuff is fascinating and fun and great, and it
Yeah.
doesn't make you make a better coffee drink,
Yeah.
and it
Mhm.
doesn't make you faster at making a high quality coffee drink, and it doesn't make your business money.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
if your business doesn't make money, you have to find another job. And so
Yep.
for
Mm-hmm.
me, I wanted to create something that said, hey, business owner, I want to recognize that great coffee career training is fun and exciting, and it's what your barista is wanting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't provide that because it's unsustainable and it doesn't help you.
Yeah.
Right. So let's start with
Mm-hmm.
what I, would really call more of a production training.
Yeah.
Right. Is my training packed full of fun coffee science and learning about what is happening in a brew cycle? And, yes, 100% it's there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the right amount of that stuff lined up with, hey, how do you actually pull a shot? Okay, now that you know how to pull a shot and you actually know how to steam milk, what does it mean to put the drink together? Okay, now that we've done that, how do you do that faster? What happens when there's a line of 20 tickets? How do you do what you just did quickly while maintaining quality, right? There's actually expert baristas out there that have dialed that in, and you're brand new, but you need to be acting like that person right now. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And if we can get this right as an industry, not only will quality get higher and profits be better, but we've already talked about it. What do we do with profits? We can now take that money and start investing into career training. Right. But production training comes first, or else no one wins.
Yeah.
And so that was the intent. A coffee shop owner can have a training system that gets people making great drinks. Period.
Yeah. I love that. It solves another need. I just had a conversation last week because I was talking to the manager of a coffee shop. They've never worked at another cafe. The owners of that coffee company, they've never worked at a coffee shop. So everybody's entire coffee experience is this one coffee shop. And they cannot spot the inefficiencies in what they're doing because they're the fish in the water. This is all I know. So when I say like, well, what are some like ways you could be more efficient on bar? They just like can't even conceptualize the question to aside from hustle harder, I guess. It's like, oh, cool, super unsustainable solution to cranking out drinks more. So it's incredibly expensive to like go work at 10 other coffee shops and then come back to the one. And by expensive, I mean, nobody's ever going to do that.
And also, who's to say you're going to get good information?
And who's to say, yeah, for sure. So there's an incredible need that this fills in terms of just exposure to, without having to go work the bars, the hours on somebody else's bar for weeks, months, years. You get a very well put together, well thought out other perspective on how this can and should work better for everybody involved, which I think is incredibly important. And a lot of coffee shops are started by people who've never worked in a coffee shop. Yeah. And so we might say until we're blue in the face, like, just go get a job somewhere for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, go work somewhere else, please. And I still don't know of anybody who's actually listened to me. And so some other outside perspective like this, to be able to import, to buy, almost like purchase your experience and download it to themselves and their staff, with the additional assurance that the staff won't hear a different presentation because it's a video. They're not going to hear a different version of the same thing. When I was a trainer, I created the stupidest, longest checklist of all time because I would just forget stuff. But I had a checklist to try and like not forget talking points, because I'd get people who were like, I'm fully trained, but then somebody brought in a gift card and I didn't know what to do because you didn't show me. Like, dang it. So even me trying my hardest would say things differently or forget things. So, which is part of the reason I'm a huge fan of a program like this, and I'm excited to dive in deep to this. So all that to say, thanks for putting it together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my honor. And I'm excited to get, more people using it and helping more people. Because it's solved a lot of problems for us. And, to that end, I want to make sure that your listeners know that I've got a deal for them.
Yeah. Attaboy.
Yeah.
My man.
We'll put the correct link in the bio, or however you guys want to do that.
Yeah, we'll do it in the show notes.
yourcoffeeshopsuccess.com/barista training. And that link will take them, all cards on the table, to a sale page.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to try to sell you.
How's this going to make money?
on those buttons, the buttons on that page, you get $500 off your first year.
Word.
Um,
Yeah, man.
and the other cool thing is that it's on a 7-day free trial.
Saw
So
that. Cool.
here's the cool thing about that. When you click that button and you sign up for the 7-day free trial, you will immediately get an email from me that basically says, hey, if you start today, you will have one of your team members trained while on this trial.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like it, keep going. And if you don't, cancel it, and it will cost you nothing. But you can see in 7 days that you can get verifiably better results for free. So,
man,
that's awesome.
Dude, thanks for putting it together. Thanks for that discount code. I'll put the links in the show note caption so people can just click on it and head on over. If people want to find you or follow Stay Golden, what are ways that people can track along with you? Because you've shared a ton of who you are and your heart for business. And I know if I was listening to this podcast, I'd be like, I want to just follow that guy and follow those companies. So where can people find you? How can they follow you? How can they stay in the know as far as what you're up to and where you're going in life, Jamie?
Yeah, thanks for giving me that opportunity. I have to first admit that I am not as present as I should be on social media, especially for a guy who's trying to start a business. But you can follow Stay Golden on Instagram at stay.golden.co. And I do have a personal Instagram that I haven't been on in 7 years. So let me try to remember it. I think it's at JD Cunningham on Instagram. And I would say probably the best way to keep up with what I'm doing or whatever is just to subscribe to my mailing list on yourcoffeeshopsuccess.com. And over the next year or so, I'll be trying to put together a lot more valuable emails and information and blogs and things like that. I had my first kid 7 years ago, and I realized that social media was not something that I was good at handling.
Yep.
So I've taken a step back, but I think it's about time to strategically get back on for business reasons. So
I respect that tremendously. I took a little over 2 years off. It happened to coincide with the pandemic, which ended up being a huge blessing because I was already off. So just didn't have that constant stream of stress, but it was good. But I did decide to re-engage, but it's primarily because of this and this desire to serve cafe and roastery owners more than anything. I needed a better reason than just like the dopamine hits to re-engage. So if people choose not to be on, respect. If they choose to re-engage because they want to serve people, also respect.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think that's what's about to happen for me. So
word. I love that, man. Well, super cool. Thank you so much for being here. I learned a lot. I appreciate you a ton, and I'm so thankful for Maxwell connecting us and our paths getting to cross. And Nashville is like my second home, so we're like already mapping out our next trip down there. So I'll for sure stop by, and then if you're around or available, I might ping you. But thanks for being here, man. I super appreciate it.
Yeah, I would actually really love to connect in person. Love to treat you and your family to a meal at Stay Golden. And
I want that American breakfast or whatever you called it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's good. It's a build your own,
I love it.
I would love to do that and get to know you guys a little bit better. I really am honored that you thought of me and carved out. Gosh, we're coming up on 2 hours. Thank you. I'm honored by that and hope that I was able to add some kind of values into your audience.
Cool. Well, thank you, man. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider subscribing on YouTube. That's a great zero-cost way to support this podcast. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. And on both Spotify and Apple, you can leave us up to a 5-star review. Please check out our online courses, our group coaching, and our one-on-one coaching. That's the absolute best way to support this podcast. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover or guests you'd like us to invite, please leave those in the comments section on YouTube. If you're not already following us on social media, we are at Threadbare Coffee Consulting on Instagram, and that's really the only platform we're active on. That's where I regularly post bite-sized thoughts on what it will take you, the owner, to build a healthy coffee business that takes great care of people including you. The content we post on Instagram overlaps with the podcast, but it's generally distinct from anything we cover on this podcast. If you haven't already visited our website, we have a myriad of free tools and trainings for coffee shop and coffee roastery owners. Everything from calculating your cost of goods sold for both a cafe and a roastery, which is completely different, pricing, which again for a cafe and roastery is completely different, managing labor percentage in a way that takes great care of people, etc., etc. All of those tools and trainings are available at our website, threadbarecoffeeconsulting.com. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. And last but not least, thank you for your interest in building a healthy coffee business that takes great care of people, including you.